Good morning, radio stations, and thank you for joining the live broadcast from the Office of the Prime Minister in Roseau. Today, Wednesday, November 15th, the press briefing will commence in 60 seconds. Please stand by. Radio station, stand by for commencement in 15 seconds. Five, four, three, two, one.
Good morning and welcome once again, one and all, to the daily press briefing hosted by the Office of the Prime Minister. I am Kamala John Baptist Aaron, Press Secretary. And this morning, I welcome all of the media here on site at the media room in the Office of the Prime Minister. I welcome also those media present, those following the proceedings off-site as well. And I take the opportunity, importantly, to welcome all of the Dominicans listening and following the proceedings, Dominicans and residents of the Commonwealth of Dominica also, and especially those Dominicans living overseas who make it a priority to follow the daily press briefings from wherever they are, because, of course, they are connected to the Commonwealth of Dominica. Ladies and gentlemen, one and all, you may have already been told, but I take this opportunity to remind all of us that the purpose of the daily press briefings is to bring you up to date with what is taking place on your behalf in various sectors of the society, about what is going on around the clock, almost literally, to get Dominica back to where Dominicans are accustomed. And this morning, importantly, ladies and gentlemen, we have one of the most critical agencies here with us this morning, the Dominica Electricity Services, Domlec. And just by way of information, the folks who are joining us here, because the daily press briefing today will focus solely on Domlec, the people who are here representing that company: Bertilia Libla Mackenzie, the general manager. We have also Lemuel Lavenier, who is the manager for engineering, distribution and transmission. He's also the leader of restoration of lines. And we also have Adina Bellet Valentine. She is the public relations officer of Domlec. And without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me call to the podium the general manager of Domlec, Mrs. Bertilia Leblanc Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mrs. John Baptist Aaron. I want to recognize all the members of the media represented here today, and particularly my employees here with me, Adina Bellet Valentine and Mr. Lemuel Lavenier, our engineering, transmission and distribution manager. Good morning, Dominica. Good morning to Dominicans at home and abroad, and everyone who will be listening to this program now and later at their convenience. At this time, I want to greet the employees of Domlec, some of whom will be hearing it because in the offices I know that the radios are on and they're listening and supporting, and those who are on the field, climbing the poles, stringing lines. Thank you so much to you, my staff. I'm here to share with you, our performance and progress to date and the way forward. For us, safety is always a priority, and we'll start with safety. At Domlec, we are committed to working in a manner that maintains the health and safety of our employees, our customers, the wider community. And I am proud to say that over the past weeks, since Maria, we have had 0 lost time incidents, safety incidents, and the staff must be applauded for this. When one considers the risks inherent in the electricity business, coupled with the long hours and challenging work of restoration, which followed this significant storm, and when you add to it crews from other utilities, we are performing exceptionally well from a safety perspective. And I would like to recognize all Domlec employees and the visiting crews for their commitment to safety every moment on the job, every day. Because the pressures are great. People want their electricity restored, but we have to do so safely. I spoke earlier of the visiting crews, and we have currently 5 countries helping us to restore the system, the electricity system in Dominica. And they are Barbados, Grand Bahama, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Cuba. We had here with us crews from Jamaica, but they've since left, and we're thankful to them for their contribution to the restoration. We are really, really grateful to the visiting crews for their hard work. They can be seen all over the island, in Portsmouth, in the south of the island, southwest of the island. And the sacrifices they are making to be here to assist us, having left their families to come. We have some good news. We are expecting crews from Bahama Electricity Corporation in Nassau, Bahamas, and from the Turks and Caicos Islands as well. 2 crews by the end of next week to add to the numbers that we already have. In addition to the input of our staff and visiting crews, we need to also point out that during this process, we've been benefiting from sustained collaboration with other utilities, namely Digicel, Flow, Dowasco. Additionally, Domlec is pleased that we have had the wholehearted support of the cabinet and the government of Dominica, and we want to recognize this morning. To date, 1,666 customers have been reconnected. 805 in the south, southwest, and 861 in the north of the island. The reconnection of supply to 535 customers is pending. That is to say, persons who are certified. And this also refers to persons where power is in the area. Because what we have is that we have persons who have submitted certificates, but we've not powered up these areas. Certified customers are being restored in the following areas as high voltage and low voltage lines are being rebuilt, and as these are being completed, it is a process. So Central Roseau, 99.9, and you will ask why 99.9 and why not 100? There are about 3 poles in certain alleys in Virgin Lane, Kennedy Avenue and Bath Road, which have to be dealt with. But access is proving problematic, but it's going to be dealt with shortly. 100% in Pottersville. Lower Goodwill, 50%. Bath Estate, 25%, Newtown, 25%, Canefield Industrial Area, 100%, Canefield, 10%, Foncoulé, 10%. In the Portsmouth area, Picard, 80%, Central Portsmouth, 100%, Lagon, 50%, Chance, 25%, Glanville, 50%. Work continues on the rebuilding of the high voltage and low voltage lines to the Douglas Charles Airport. Portsmouth is expected to be completed, Portsmouth Environs, expected to be completed in the next 3 weeks. New areas where high voltage and low voltage rebuilds work will commence and that is expected the week of November 27th, we will commence. Castle Comfort, Stock Farm, Upper Goodwill Center Roma, Tantan, TB, and the Roseau Valley. We continue to make progress on repairs to our generating facilities. We currently have 13.4 megawatts available, and our current peak load is 5.34 megawatts, which represents 30% of our pre-Maria peak load. Our peak load was 18 megawatts prior to Maria. 3 of our thermal units remain unavailable. The 2 hydro units at Trafalgar are ready for operation. However, the pertinent interconnector is currently being rebuilt, and so we can't bring on the hydros as yet. The unit at Loda will be ready by the end of this week, and this represents 4.7 megawatts of hydro, which will be coming online as well when we are ready with the lines. Extensive work is required to make Padu, and Padu has 2 generating units, to make the Padu power station available. We know that the turbine house was severely flooded, and so we have a lot of work to do in Padu, and we expect that to be completed by the end of Q2, quarter 2, 2018. Customer service. Our customer service office in Roseau is open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. to serve our customers. We are reviewing the hours, with the objective being to return to pre-Maria hours. Services available include bill payments, pay-as-you-go purchases, inquiries, and processing of inspection certificates from the electrical division. Our Portsmouth office, which suffered significant damage, is not fully operational. And in spite of this, we are open with a few services from 9 to 3 as well in Portsmouth. For the processing of inspection certificates, persons cannot pay their bills at Portsmouth. So that can be done at the NBD Portsmouth branch. We are negotiating with other providers to undertake that service on our behalf, and that information will be provided when it becomes available. We continue to keep our customers updated on the information which is important to them. And we are doing so in several ways. By posting on Facebook daily to provide restoration updates, safety messages, and other relevant information. Customer concerns and questions via instant messaging on Facebook are being monitored and responded to on an ongoing basis. Information to customers is also being transmitted through the radio stations, and you may have heard our safety messages that is on the various radio stations. The company's Power Talk program, which was normally held on a Monday, continues with live interviews on radio. We understand that you are anxious to have your power restored. However, your home and or business must be deemed safe in order to be reconnected to the power grid. Hence, persons must go to the electrical division to be recertified. We know that for those persons who have completed the needed repairs to their homes, or for those who have had minimal damage, it can be frustrating to wait for your electricity to be reconnected. I need you to remember what we saw when we got up on the morning after Hurricane Maria. And when we saw the devastation to the country and to the national grid and to the power plants. And at that time, Dominicans, all those who met me, said to me, "We feel sorry for you, Mrs. Mackenzie." And so I ask you to just remember that. The task is arduous, but it will be done. Along with the electrical division, we are working diligently to return service to customers, and we truly appreciate your patience. We too, as an entity, we're looking forward to bringing our customers back online. Domlec, like every other business entity, has been severely impacted in several ways. Our employees, each person, has a story in the way they were affected. But in spite of the challenges, we are utilizing all available resources to power up this island. Please rest assured that we are working as hard as we can to restore power to all customers as quickly and as safely as we are able to do so. Hurricane Maria was unprecedented on so many levels, and the damage to every part of our beautiful island was devastating. There is still much work ahead of us, not only as the electric utility, but as residents of communities across Dominica. We know that it will take several months for Domlec to restore electrical service to all areas of Dominica. Even with the efforts of support crews who have left their homes and families to assist, we have a long road ahead. And we know that as time goes on, it can become more and more difficult, frustrating, and disheartening for our customers. Understand that Domlec employees who are working on the lines are customers too. Again, we are soliciting your patience and your trust as we work safely and diligently to rebuild the island's electricity grid. I want to remind us that our focus is not only on restoration, but also on rebuilding a system that is stronger and more resilient. And you will hear much more about our Building Back Better in the coming weeks. In conclusion, allow me to respond to the question which is asked of every employee or associate of Domlec on a daily basis. And that question is, how long will the restoration process take? And today, we are going to provide you with the response. And it is, based on our restoration plan, we are projecting that by April 2018, all customers will have access to the grid to facilitate reconnection. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Julian Morris, Channel 5 News. It's a privilege to be here again today. I just wanted to ask Mrs. Mackenzie whether Domlec was still having challenges with people who are using generators and feeding back into the system. Is that still a problem? Do you have a difficulty with that?
Not at this time. The customers who are using generators have heeded our call, and we've not seen areas of backfeed.
And I also wanted to ask you, as you were going through the statistics for powering up. I think you mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, Canefield 10%. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yes, I was about to ask you what accounts for the low percentage for Canefield. What really accounts for that?
Okay. Well, it's we started that a few weeks. We started the Canefield Industrial Estate, where we were pouring up the industrial and commercial customers.
10% you said encompasses both in industrial and
yeah, the industrial estate is the industrial estate.
oh, it doesn't include. You're not talking residential yet, right? Is that what you?
Some residential, but minimal, because our focus was on the industrial estate. So
Okay.
That's why it's 10%.
Okay, well, my question is
Yes,
a little
yes.
biased because I live in Canefield, so I'm trying to...
Oh, okay. You're talking from a personal standpoint. Yes.
Okay.
But right. So that's yes. This is where when we mention the areas and the percentage, that is we commenced and we're going to continue dealing with the area.
Okay.
So in your area we are in your area. There are places that we're not in the area at all.
There's one family there who is a little concerned with what they consider high-powered lines running across their yard. Of course, I was reassured by a Domlec official that these things will definitely be taken care of. So I was wondering how going forward, how are you dealing with this reports of that and people who are concerned, lines going through their yards and what have you? They're afraid they get powered up and get electrocuted or something. So how you're responding to those things?
I can let Mr. Lavigne respond to that, but we are dealing with it. But he'll give us some more detailed information. You're welcome. Come.
Good morning to all and the listening public. We do have a crew who's focused on clearing up lines and poles in people's yards and on the roofs. So we do have crews going out focused solely on doing those sorts of work.
Do you have instances where people call on Domlec to deal with lines that do not necessarily belong to Domlec? People don't understand whose lines, to which company does this line belong? So they say, well, what if you see a line, it must be Domlec. Does that? How do you deal with that?
Yes, we do have some of those. And so the supervisor who's responsible for that, he goes out and do an inspection before the crew comes in and do the recovery work that is required.
Okay. The only other question I have is for Mrs. Yes.
Yeah, what I'd like to add is that persons who have these situations where the lines and the poles or the hardware of Domlec is in on their porch or in the yard, to provide us with the information so that we can deal with it, because we, as Lemon said, we have crews dedicated, but we may miss something. So if the customers can provide us with the feedback through the regular.
And finally, my final question really is, how do you characterize the outcome in terms of, I know you have all these, you have support from Carrilec, from other, you also mentioned additional teams coming in 2 weeks or what have you. How does Domlec manage all of that and divide your task up and what have you? How is that impacting the speed with which you're recovering? Obviously, it's helping, but how is that working out?
Well, should have stayed to answer, because he's dealing with the restoration.
Good morning again. What we are doing, we have a list of priorities, and we've started with the commercial area and the industrial areas that all of us rely on. And from there, we move into the residential neighborhoods and the other infrastructure that are necessary to keep the network up and keep it stable. Because even while we are restoring, we need to have a stable system that customers can get connected to. So we are using that to strategize where we place the crews, so that when the crews come in, we can maximize the amount of work that they do. For example, we have the Cubans on one of the interconnectors to Trafalgar, and they're focusing on that solely. By the end of their reconstruction, would have the hydro then linked to Fonkoli, so that the cost of the electricity can drop and we can get the valley and other associated areas powered up. Well, when the teams leave, it's back to our local crews, and our local crews have been working hard. We're ensuring that they get sufficient rest, because we do recognize that this is not a sprint race, it's a marathon. So they are getting sufficient rest, and we are doing our best to make sure that we can get this restoration done in sufficient manner. They're also allowed to get vacation so that they can, obviously, we are not working with 100% of our employees. When I say 100%, I mean that you have linemen there that also have the issues at home that they haven't been able to address sufficiently with while they work. So we are not working 100% because of all of us are impacted while we work. So that has had some impact on the restoration, but it is going along well enough. Okay.
My question is in relation to the crews. When they leave, do you think that you guys would need extra help or extra workers to deal with the level of work that you guys have to?
What we intend to do is to continue to make requests of Carolec to provide crews. So when these crews leave, I have in fact mentioned that to Carolec already, that when these crews leave, and they will be leaving before Christmas, then we can get some in January, because they would need to go, it may not be the exact persons, but the utilities can send another crew. So that is going to be ongoing. So we expect to have that assistance. We've added in for T&D many casual employees, yeah, to assist with the process, definitely. But you know that our work is highly skilled and highly specialized, and so you just really kind of just take somebody who doesn't have the skill set to come and string lines or do the connections required. So, you know.
You said that in order to get powered up houses-wise, people have to be recertified.
Yes.
Are you suggesting every single house in Dominica must, regardless of its level of impact, has to get certification?
Yes, this is the directive of the electrical division. For obvious reasons, for safety purposes.
Okay. I have another question. How do you respond to some frustration that people are seeing neighbors next to them have power, and they're literally either across the street or right next to that house with power, and they do not have power? How do you explain that?
Okay. The way the system is, you have different circuits, and so the person next to you may be on a different circuit, or across the street may be on a different circuit. I'll give you an example. When we did Roseau, we had a situation where DPEX was powered up, and the IRC, the regulators, which is next door, were not, because they were on different circuits, and that circuit had not been rebuilt. So if your circuit has not been rebuilt, but if your neighbor has power, shortly you will have, because as soon as we deal with it, as soon as we build the circuit and get everything clear, look at the transformer, make sure the transformer is fine, because you may be on a different transformer as well. So I know, because we've been faced with that. People call in and say, well, my neighbor has power, and then you come with the issue of favoritism and so on, but it's not. Because we really want everybody to come back. We need the load.
Also, you have a system for restoring the people back onto the grid, meaning you have a priority, you're doing businesses and the like, and then you're going to other areas. As far as the removal of poles and lines, is there a system for that as well, or not?
Let me let Lemuel do that.
Yes, there is a system for the removal of poles and lines. The crews go through and do the reconnections, do the restoration, and sometime thereafter we have crews coming who are doing the salvaging, the recovering the poles and pieces of poles and pieces of lines that will be left along the roadside. Obviously, because of the volume, we're unable to address it in a quick enough manner, but we do have a system in place for that. So if there's any particular situation that's creating an issue for any customer, then again, we just need to be aware of it, and we could prioritize it in the schedule. Let me flesh out what I'm asking you a little bit better.
Are you, with the system that you have, are you saying, let's do the places which we consider to be most critically damaged and going down the line? This is what I'm trying to understand. How do you decide this place we're going to remove the lines and not this place yet? Is it Canefield? Is it Fokole? How are you deciphering where you go to remove poles and lines first and in any order?
Right, by the level of safety. So if there's a situation that is more unsafe than another, then we'll address that first. But the objective is to ensure that if we cannot address a particular situation, it can be made safe while we address those that are more urgent.
I want to ask a question to the
Of course.
It's questions I think are not being asked. Right now, there are numerous generators in Dominica. Is Domlec concerned at all that it may have a problem with the number of personal generators that there are and people coming back onto the national grid?
From my review of the situation, the cost to own and maintain a personal generator, these portable generators, is vastly greater than the cost of your Domlec monthly electricity bill. And customers are meeting me all the time and saying, I need to get back onto Domlec because really I'm spending X number of dollars in gas or diesel, and my Domlec bill was less than half of that. So I don't believe that there will be a problem. In terms of the regulation of that, that falls within the purview of the Independent Regulatory Commission.
Final question, Mr. Lavinier. I know you mentioned the fact that you have a lot of staff who people are challenged, people are exhausted, burnt out, what have you, and you're still doing the task, getting the job done. But I want to look at the other part of it, your materials, the stuff you need to do what you need to do. Do you have what you need to do what you need to do? What challenges do you face in that particular area there?
Yeah, we don't have all of what we need to do what we have to do. The materials are coming in slowly. Obviously, the level of devastation that to the network could not have been envisaged before. So we have a large number of our transformers that are damaged, a large number of our street lights that are damaged through the storm. Then you have the post-storm damage, which also limits the restoration. For example, you have areas you pass and you assess and you determine your scope of work, and a few weeks later, because of other works taking place in the country by persons, then the scope of work has changed. Areas you would not have had to replace lines, you now have to look for lines to replace those areas because the lines were damaged because of other activities. So we do have those challenges. They are not insurmountable, but they are challenges that do hamper the restoration. But notwithstanding, we'll continue to press ahead.
Sure. From what I understand, that there are some villages which are powered that receive water from electricity. They need electricity to power their water supply. Has there been any extra efforts put towards regenerating the electricity for these areas so that they can get water?
Yes, we are working with DOWASCO to implement solutions that can be used to get the pumps powered so that the areas can receive water. Obviously, some of those locations, because of the distance away from the nearest power source, then local generation has to be made available. So the cooperation is necessary, and as Bishop Mackenzie mentioned earlier, we are receiving quite a bit of cooperation with the other utilities.
Okay, I suspect Mrs. Mackenzie will speak
will weigh in on this one. Have you, obviously, this is going to cost you an arm and a leg what you're doing now. Have you considered the estimated cost of this project, this rebuilding project? You know, do you have any ballpark on it in terms of a sense of what you're looking at?
We have an estimated figure of 18 to 20 million US.
Million?
Yes.
US or is it?
US, I said that.
Oh, 18 to 20
Yes,
million.
into 20 million US. Yes.
Thank you very much. I try not to jump in and ask questions, but Domlec is a major partner of the government of Dominica. The people of Dominica listening and my colleagues who are not here, I am asking the questions that I am sure you want to ask because of how critical the work of Domlec is. And so I thank you for your indulgence, both Mrs. Mackenzie and Mr. Lavenier. And at this time, without any further ado, I thank all of you once again, specifically Domlec, for the work that you're doing and for your presence here to be accountable to the people of Dominica and the residents of Dominica. Mrs. Bertilia Leblanc Mackenzie, the General Manager of Domlec, Mr. Lemuel Lavenier, the Manager Engineering, Distribution and Transmission, also the leader of the restoration of lines. In short, the man with all the pressure on his shoulders. And Adina Bellat Valentine, the Public Relations Officer of Domlec. Again, I thank the media present here and those of you following off-site. I thank Dominicans, residents, one and all, both here and abroad. Thank you once again and have a great day.